Thank you. A few pieces of information about our organization. If this is the first time you interact with us and come to one of our programs, welcome. If you're returning, also welcome. We hope you enjoy our briefing. The Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute is the premier organization founded by members of Congress to advance the Hispanic community's economic progress with a focus on social responsibility and global competitiveness. We were founded in 2003, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are the only bicameral and bipartisan Hispanic-led and Hispanic-serving nonprofit based in DC. CHLI is dedicated to fostering a broad awareness of the diversity of thought, heritage, interests, and views of Americans of Hispanic and Portuguese heritage. Before we start today's program, I also want to share a few additional points. Our Public Policy Hill Briefing Series provides a platform for an in-depth dialogue on current public policy issues that affect the U.S., Hispanic, and Portuguese communities. We do not attempt to influence legislation. These are briefings to educate and to inform members of Congress, their staff, and Hispanic communities across the country. Today, we will be discussing artificial intelligence and how organizations are protecting data throughout the AI lifecycle. Panelists are going to share practical steps that companies are taking to keep data secure, prevent misuse, and manage risk while supporting innovation. This is a chance to dive into legislation and get different perspectives. Our guests, who will join us for the panel later, will provide that insight. Before we begin as well, just a few reminders. We ask you to share the speaker's points of view as well as your own, so please be sure to follow us on our social media and on X. We are at the CHLI. Again, that's at THECHLI. The discussions, including the questions and answers, are being live streamed through our YouTube channel at The CHLI. The discussion is also recorded, so you can always go back and watch it again if you wish. After the panel discussion, there will also be time for Q&A, so if you have a really burning question, just hold on. We will prompt you for when it's time to bring that forward, and our panelists will be happy to address your questions. You will also notice before we start that the screen on the left side of the room, my right, your left over there, has a graphic for one of our partners, Catch Skills. Catch Skills is a platform that helps people track and showcase their skills and what they're learning on a day-to-day basis, whether you learn that in a formal or an informal environment. It gives you a complete picture of your skill sets and what you know. Catch turns everyday learning into skills that drive growth. If you scan the QR code on the screens anytime during this program, it will take you to catchskills.com where you can log what you learned today. And if you're already a user, it'll give you a pre-written prompt so that it makes it easier for you to continue to log what you've been learning. We have two different QR codes. So if you're here for the workshop, you scan the QR code now, it'll give you a prompt for the workshop. And later on, when we start the panel, you can scan it again, and you can also track what you learned throughout the panel. Before passing it along to our next speaker, I would also like to highlight and thank our host today. A huge thank you to our extended family, the FIU and DC team, who are welcoming us back into their space to host our annual Tech Talk and kick off our 2026 Public Policy Briefing Series. A special thank you to team members, Carlos Becerra, Michelle Castro, Avi Harles, Sarah Correa, and Daniel Suarez. They have worked directly with our team as we coordinated for this event. This program would have not been possible without their support, so we're really appreciative. Thank you so much. Round of applause for them. And now I would like to introduce CHLI's President and CEO, Marianne Gomez Horta, for her remarks, and she will also introduce our next speaker. Welcome, Marianne.
Okay, before I do that, I want Michelle to come up and do a formal welcome from FIU. So first you go, dear.
Yes. Thank you, Marian. Well, on behalf of Florida International University, our Board of Trustees, and our university president, we are always so happy to partner with Chile as an outstanding partner and welcome you. This is always everyone's home. We are the Embassy of Miami, and so we extend our doors, we extend who we are, and we're always happy to have you all here. So thank you again for coming. We hope that you'll join us for more opportunities, and always a pleasure with this organization.
Thank you, Michelle. I know I took a little bit of part of that, so thanks again, Nicole and Michelle. Thank you again, all of you who are joining us here in person and also virtual. So as Nicole mentioned, we're doing something a little bit different this time because we got a lot of interest in regards to AI, not just from a policy standpoint, but just in general. So once we get into the workshop, we can compare all kinds of notes. I do want to take the time to just recognize a couple of other people. I don't know if Bruce is still here. Wanted to thank him for his help in the program. And then our advisory council member as well, Miguel Mendoza with Amazon. Thank you again for joining us. And right in front of him is Belinda Garza with Instacart, also from the Chile Advisory Council. Both of them formally involved in the board of directors, so thank you. And I see Ryan over here with Capital. Thank you again for being here. Appreciate it. The sponsors for the briefing series, please join me in a round of applause to all of them at the end. Capital One, Chevron, Dell Technologies, Dominion Energy, Johnson & Johnson, Opportune, Pfizer, and Verizon. Thank you all for your support. I also want to thank the rest of the Chile team who helped put this together. I've already said thank you to Nicole. And Bruce, you weren't in the room. I did give you a shout out, just so you know.
Yes,
Okay,
you
all right.
did.
Sophia, Andres, Angela, Adriana, Mercy, Tia, Colin, Sarah, and Maite. Thank you all for your support in this program. And before I introduce our chairwoman, I do have one last group to thank, and that is our current Chile Global Leader interns who are here. Raise your hand. If anybody is interested in learning more about that information in the program, please speak with Nicole or one of the interns here after the program. So now I have the honor of introducing the chairwoman of the Chile Board of Directors, also known as my boss. She is the first Latina elected to the U.S. Congress. She proudly served from 1989 to 2019, where she was also the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Born in Havana, Cuba, she built a legacy of leadership in foreign policy, Hispanic and Latino representation, and supporting women in public service. She now serves as Senior Policy Director. That was a promotion recently, right?
I don't know
Okay.
what it was.
At the international law firm of Aiken, here based in Washington, D.C. Chairwoman Ross Layton founded Chile in 2003, along with Chile Vice Chairman Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart and the Honorable Lincoln Diaz-Balart. Please join me in welcoming the chairwoman, a.k.a. my boss.
Okay. Buenas tardes. It is such a joy every time I get to participate in any event at FIU in DC, but especially when you combine that with my love for Chile. So it's a combination of love affairs right here. But I want to thank Marianne Gomez, who really is my boss. She says that she's, no, you're my boss, for that wonderful introduction. It's always wonderful to be here with so many friends and partners. You guys are wonderful, gathered for our Chile briefing series. And these briefings are an important part of what we do at Chile, bringing together leaders from government, from industry, from the policy community to talk about issues shaping our future. And today's Tech Talk focuses on a topic that could not be more relevant nor more difficult for me to understand. Artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming how businesses operate, how governments deliver services, and how people interact with technology in our daily lives. AI is unlocking new possibilities that were unimaginable only a few years ago. But with these opportunities also comes important responsibility. AI systems rely on vast amounts of information to learn, to adapt, and to deliver results. As AI becomes more integrated into our daily lives, the way we manage and the way we protect that data becomes critically important. Organizations today are thinking carefully about how to secure information throughout the entire AI lifecycle, from how data is collected to how systems are trained and how systems operate. At the same time, there is a broader conversation happening here in Washington and around the world about how we ensure that these technologies are used responsibly. Businesses, experts, and policymakers are all working to understand how we can encourage innovation while also protecting privacy, while also strengthening security, while also maintaining the public's trust. And that's exactly why conversations like the one we're going to have today are so valuable. Today's panel, these incredible men and women, will help us to better understand how companies are protecting data, how they are managing risks, how they are making sure that these technologies are used in ways that are safe and in ways that are reliable. We are fortunate to have such a great group of speakers who work on these issues every day. I look forward to hearing from their insights, and I hope that you have some good questions to ask them. And before we formally present our panel, I want to say thank you to the FIU and DC team for hosting us here today. We truly appreciate your partnership and your generosity in welcoming Chile into your space. Your space is our space now. Thank you, Marianne. I was supposed to introduce Michelle Castro, but, she stole my thunder. So, Marianne, I'm introducing you back. Marianne Gomez-Horta, fearless leader.
I get to introduce, so as we mentioned, we're going to have a panel discussion, but before we do that, we're going to actually start with the workshop. So I have the pleasure of introducing the special guest to lead us through a workshop, who will also be the moderator of the conversation. So our special guest and, quote, instructor for the workshop is Juan Carlos Gutierrez. He is a managing director of technology and innovation at Amazon Web Services for North America and Latin America. Have you all heard of that company? Amazon Web Services? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, just a little company. He is a global executive with more than 3 decades of experience in information technology and business consulting across multiple industries worldwide. His prior experience includes leadership roles at Oracle Corporation and PwC. He serves on the board of directors of Angeles Investors, the Hispanic IT Executive Council Foundation, and the Cristo Rey in Miami. He is also a former CHLI board member, and we were trying to figure out, I think when I showed up in 2012, he was a board member, and he served for, I think, another 6 years or so. So please join me in welcoming Juan Carlos Gutierrez, who's going to lead us through a workshop here. Thank you, Juan Carlos.
I don't know if I need to use this, but thank you so much, Marianne, and thank you, Liana. It's so great to see you. I served, as Marianne said, in the board between 2012 2017. Before that, I was also in the advisory board, so CHLI for me is an organization that I really like a lot, and super grateful to see the growth of the organization in all these years. So I'm going to be talking about AI and data, and it's going to be a conversation. And then during the panel, we'll go deeper. And at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you don't have time to ask all the questions, I'm going to be around also, and we can continue the conversation, okay? Can you hear me without this?
Yeah,
because I need to...
we also have people online.
Okay, so probably I need to do this with me. Let's see if this works. Hello, hello. Okay, let's see if this works before I use the microphone. I was instructed to work with this. This is my first time, so.
Oh,
Oh, it's using the books. All the resources from FIU. So we're going to be talking about the art of the possible of AI. So let's see if I do this well. Okay, great. So a little bit more about me. I think Marianne already did an amazing job, better than me, introducing myself. But probably on using the picture. So I have 3 boys, 29 years married. The older one is an FIU graduate. Okay, so that's why I wanted to use that. So he graduated, I think, 3 years ago from computer science engineering. The second one is a South Florida graduate professional also, but he's from FAU, from Florida Atlantic University. A little bit of competition between both. Also a computer science engineer. What else I can use from here? I'm Venezuelan. So proud of our new world champion crown in baseball, so that we got yesterday.
Hey now.
And so let me use the phrase that I use here. I'm a Spaniard by blood, so my family is from Spain, from the Canary Islands. I'm Venezuelan by luck, and I'm American by choice. So those are my 3 nationalities. And that's it. So I think Marianne did the rest pretty well. But I'm involved with Chile, high tech, and of course Oracle and AWS. But let's talk. Oh, I think I need to go back. Sorry. Before, so I talked to AI. AI is artificial intelligence, data, innovation is really something that in Amazon, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Amazon way of doing innovation. It starts with the customers. So everything that we do in Amazon is starting with the mission of being the most customer-centric organization in the world, on Earth, and that's officially how we say it. And that mission is with Amazon since we were founded in 1994. So it has been the same mission. We didn't change the mission over the years. It's this, the company that wants to be the most customer-centric on Earth. So with that mission, we are allowed to innovate continuously, because if you see that mission, we don't talk about technology, products, region. So Amazon started as a bookstore online. We don't have the book, concept in the mission. So this mission allows us to do constant innovation, including AI. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. Sorry, learning this. Let's see if I do it well.
What if you pin it? Because it's interact.
I don't know if probably if I.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
So, the younger folks that have to help.
Yeah, excellent. So with that mission, Amazon has been able to innovate in different business. We are what we call a digital native company. So we started online. Amazon was the first bookstore to be available, on internet when we were founded. But with that in mind, today we can sell in Amazon everything that that you can sell online, including cars. So that initial concept evolved to have an e-commerce platform that globally you can buy, food, you can buy even pharmaceutical products online. But in addition to that, we have been able to create businesses like devices, where we have the Kindle devices, the Fire TV devices, so pretty different business because the inventory management, how you do the supply chain is totally different. Also, we have the streaming content, so Amazon Music, Prime Video, Amazon Studios, very different businesses about content, the media platform, etc. We have physical retail stores with Amazon Go or Amazon technology that is called Just Walk Out. I don't know if you have seen that in the airports. There are some stores in the airports. You just get into the store, get the products, and walk out. You don't have to, pay to a cashier. The technology works in a way that is just walking out and you're going to be charged. Okay, and then consumables products, but let me start with a little bit with AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, is company that was created to solve an internal problem in Amazon when we, in the retail business, many years ago, we had the issue that during the peak periods, for Black Friday, the holidays, we needed a lot of compute. But then after that, we didn't have to use all the compute. So we came internally with a way to balance all that and have usage of computing and storage based on demand. That was pretty innovative, and to the point that we didn't see that outside in the market, and Amazon launched that as a business. So that business is basically cloud computing, that when it was launched, nobody had that type of business. Everything was on premises or private. So we came with this business that today is AWS. AWS is a business right now of $140 billion. So from zero, 20 years ago, actually we are celebrating 20 years. Now we have a business from zero in 20 years to 140 billion. So that shows the type of success, going back to the mission and how we think in Amazon. Going with the leadership principles, this is our DNA in Amazon. Every business that you see there has the same mission and the same leadership principles. And I'm going to talk only about, these are 16 leadership principles. They define how an Amazonian works, innovate, behave, hire. But only two that are related to the AI conversation today. One is invent and simplify. That means that in Amazon, everybody is actually expected to create, to innovate, to invent. It's not the research and development department, it's not the managers, it's everybody in Amazon. So everybody in Amazon is actually expected to do that. We are evaluated to do that. Okay? And the second one is bias for action. Bias for action means that you actually have to move fast. Speed matters. And in Amazon, we have this analogy of two-way doors and one-way door decisions. So that means that when you decide something, a one-way door is you go to the next room and then you cannot come back because it's a one-way door. One-way door decisions are basically the ones that you use to build a new data center, to open, an office in a new country, because you have to invest, long-term investment, capital investment. So that's a one-way door decision. But a two-way door decision could be just creating a new experiment with a new solution. And then if it doesn't work, that's okay. You go and evolve. What we find in Amazon is that more than 70% of the decisions that we take every day are two-way doors. So we don't need all the analysis to take decisions to experiment. And a lot of the AI approach is based on that. So you can experiment a new model, you can experiment a new solution, great. It's not perfect, but you evolve, okay? So that's the core of this. But let me go a little bit with AI. So to calibrate the conversation, Marianne and Ileana were mentioning that probably not everybody's having this, and that's okay. It is evolving continuously. But let me start with AI has been with us for a long time. Since the 50s, actually, we had been talking about artificial intelligence. I went to college back in the 80s, and I saw artificial intelligence in college. I did projects with AI, with Ada, different languages, so it's not really new as a concept. Artificial intelligence, actually, when Amazon was launched, I don't know how many of you were using Amazon since the early days. My account in Amazon is from 1997. Okay? So I had been using Amazon since 1997. I was working for another company. But just an anecdote, I used Amazon because I was living in Puerto Rico at that time, and the fastest way to get a book was using Amazon versus going to a store and request a new book. They took usually 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get a new book because the inventory in the stores were not big. Requesting a book in Amazon was a matter of days, and they came to Puerto Rico with the U.S. Postal Service. So it was pretty fast. But going back to AI, what Amazon had was a personalization from the first day. So I remember when I selected books, I got a recommendation saying, people like you like this type of books. People like you are recommending, that you read this type of book. All that was personalization using data and AI from the early stages. So basic AI, personalizing with data my profile. But let me go a little bit on the evolution. So where AI really took off was with machine learning. Now we are talking more about the 20th century. So when you have your cell phones, or your cell phones today use AI. If you know it or you don't know it, they use AI. And one of the most used applications is, mapping, Uber, having directions. All that is used machine learning. So the recommended best route to go from a point A to B is machine learning. And it's learning from the historical traffic data and making you a recommendation. So, but with the reduction of cloud computing costs and storage, which happens with cloud computing, something additional happens. And it was the deep learning cost reduction. When deep learning, which is a different way of organizing data in patterns, mathematical, so I'm not going to go deeper unless you want. We can have a deeper conversation there. But deep learning was the revolution of recognizing patterns, like pictures, your face, Alexa. So when all that happened, that came, that was an inflection point. So having, for example, a recognition of patterns and pictures, that was more recent. I'm talking now less than 15 years ago. And Alexa as an application is deep learning. When you go to the airports today and there is a face recognition, that is deep learning. Okay, so deep learning is already embedded in everything that we do. Even in our phones for security, use deep learning. Okay? Now, most recent, we have an inflection point also with generative AI, and a way of the models and the data is organized. This is actually a change in the last 4 or 5 years, that each one of these technologies is a subset. So when I talk about generative AI, it's a type of deep learning, machine learning, and AI. It's not something different, it's a subset, okay? So in generative AI, what is happening is that now we have a way to have these large foundational models, language models, that can give us an application like ChatGPT, can give an application like Perplexity, or many others that use different models like Gemini or the Nova model from Amazon. These models are large language models or small language models, but it's based on language. Okay, so you ask something in English, it's going to return it to you, it's going to do translations. Okay, that has different use cases, but the big impact of this is that became accessible to everyone with an application. So that's a big disruption, okay? Versus a lot of these models were in the enterprises, behind the scenes, and not necessarily you were aware. Now, what is happening now is another evolution, and you probably are starting to hear about agentic. So what is happening is that from generative AI assistants, chat boxes, that now you talk to a call center and gives you an answer, we are evolving to these agents that are programs, pieces of software that use these models, but they are starting to behave more autonomous. Okay, so for example, imagine an agent that do collections. So automatically, you have this agent that is going to call people collecting for payments. Okay, or you could have an agent that is going to be doing a marketing campaign for you. So you just create a marketing campaign. It's going to create pictures. It's going to launch the campaigns. It's going to call people for the first call decks. All that is happening with agentic. Okay, so it's a different approach because it's more autonomous pieces of software. Doesn't require that you ask like a chat and give you an answer back. Okay, can do that without your intervention. Where we are going right now is to have systems that are more agentic. So imagine there is an example of a company that is Rocket Mortgage. They are moving everything to be agentic. I think we're going to talk with Intuit also in the panel too. Intuit is also pretty savvy, like a Credit Karma is part of Intuit, is having a lot of agentics orchestration behind. So what is happening here is that they will be more autonomous and fully autonomous between components. So let me give an example. You ask for a mortgage. There is an agent that is going to analyze your credit. There is an agent that is going to look for the best product. There is an agent that is going to call you back when everything is ready. There is an agent that is going to get all your documents and paperwork. All those could be working in an independent way, in multiple languages, different orchestration. So that's where we are going. And the more we are going, it's less human intervention. Okay? So we're going to be talking a little bit about what it means for all of us. But data is the big differentiator in all this. We'll be talking about data. What happened with data is that you have all these models and all these applications. The differentiator is the data. Because if not, every company is going to have the same thing. So if I am a financial institution or a healthcare provider, what is the difference between all these applications? The data that I have, the history that I have. And of course, how am I going to monetize all that to make a difference? But data is the big differentiator. If my data is not accessible, if my data is insecure, if my data is actually not resilient, I'm going to have an impact in my business moving forward. So data is really the big differentiator in this world of agentic and AI. It is impacting all the industries, financial services. There are many cases there. Retail, Amazon is one. Automotive, a lot of the production lines are becoming more autonomous with AI, with agentic. Formula One is a big example there that I'm going to mention. But anyway, there are examples in all the industries. Formula One, any Formula One fan? Only one? Two? Okay. Come on, we need more. Baseball? More baseball fans than Formula One. Well, I'm a Formula One fan. What happened with Formula One is a big technology sport. Creates a lot of data. Every car has more than 200 IoT devices in the car. Every car. So 200 devices that are sending data from the the temperature, the speed, how they are, each one of the tires. All that data creates more than 1.3 million data points per second. Okay? So every race is the biggest data event globally. Every race, every Formula One race. So it's a big data event, more than a concert, more than an election. All that happens in every race. So the point with that is what Formula One has been doing now, is monetizing that for better experience, for fans, for actually making the races more and more competitive. Where do I change the tire? Where do I go to the pits? All that is becoming a data-driven business, okay? So if you want to know more about Formula One and the data, let me know. But we are learning as businesses a lot with this. Manufacturing, retailers, how to consume more data globally, the speed of the consumption. So it's a big use case. And companies like Intuit, Merck, Perplexity are advancing on this. And this is interesting what is happening with AI, is that a lot of the regulated businesses or industries are maximizing AI. Why? Because data has been regulated. Data, usually it is secure. There are a lot of protocols, how you manage that in FSI. So that's why adding AI to the data infrastructure is actually easier than other businesses that have silos in the information. So let me go faster here because I want to go to the panel with my colleagues. But AI is basically working in these 4 buckets. Personalization of call centers, new experiences for me as a human being. Internal productivity like a coding. This is the #1 use case globally. Coding, programming in AI is the #1 case. Programming is becoming actually obsolete. So language, what is the #1 language that is a programming language right now? English. Why? Because you can code and generate code in plain English. And that's what is happening right now. So and we're going to try a use case pretty soon if we have time. But insights, data consumption, my pipeline forecast, give me a recommendation to sell, all those insights, and creativity, like creating new music, marketing campaign, all that is happening here. Training, internal training, like I can have an avatar of me, for example, doing this presentation. That will be this, this bucket. It can be created pretty easy. Okay, pretty easy. So some cases in Amazon, customer reviews, they use generative AI now. You can summarize all the reviews, thousands of reviews, and go and provide just one summary. That is a use case. Rufus, which is an expert. You can ask Rufus for recommendations in natural language. Tell me, what should I use in DC this weekend? And it's going to get that question and provide me an answer in products. Okay. And finally, Amazon Pharmacy is also getting recipes and recommendations like make sure that you don't take, for example, Advil with this type of medicine. So that's a little bit more intelligent than just giving you a recipe. Okay, that's what is happening with Amazon Pharmacy. Okay, so workshop. I think we have a good time. Everybody that has or wants to play a little bit in your cell phone, there is a playground. We call it playground. It's called partyrock.aws. Okay, partyrock.aws. If you want to go to to the place, it's an app. It's a website. You don't have to download it. Go to the partyrock.aws if you have time now, or you can do it later in the day and play a little bit with this. What is this idea? Is to play and know and learn more about AI and the type of applications that you can build with prompting, what is called prompting engineering. Okay? So you can do a prompt here in the user input and create an app pretty straightforward. Some ideas of apps that you can create with this. For example, I did this earlier to test it, but apologies that I cannot show it in my laptop. But let's say I want to know all the details about the elections of 2024. Okay, so I just right here create an app that shows me for every city in the US the results of the elections in 2024. That's it. That's the coding. Okay, create an app that shows me the results of the elections in 2024 by city. Maybe a little bit more detail, where city is the parameter of the app. With that input, it's going to create an app, and then you will put the city, and it's going to tell you all the results in the elections in 2024. By city, what party, who won, number 1, 2, and 3, all that can be done. That's an example. So let's say another easier one. I want to have a wine recommendation for every food, that I have. So the parameter is the type of food, and then it's going to recommend me the best wine selection. And then I can filter it with another prompt saying, I want Italian wines only, or I want Spanish wines. So those are examples of prompting applications that you can build with PartyRock. The beauty is that once you create that application, you save it and you can share it. Right? So you have an application that is already there and share it. Imagine that in a corporation. So you have people that create applications and start to use those applications to get vacations, recommendations of pipeline, documents. All that becomes like a new way of working where everybody's collaborating applications in AI. So that's the idea. Okay, so play and let me know what you think. So when we talk about AI, there are 3 layers. Is that too deep? Let me know if, is that okay? Cool. 3 layers of what is AI and generative AI, which is a subset, as I said. And the 3 layers are, the first one is the infrastructure. Everything that happens in AI requires compute, requires hardware. And this is where Amazon, and all the companies, the cloud providers or NVIDIA are building specific infrastructure for AI. This is where all the investments are happening right now, a lot of capital investments. Amazon announced $200 billion of investment in AI infrastructure. Okay, so you need specific data centers, compute to manage the capacity that is required globally for AI. Okay, so this is the first layer. The second layer is where you have the models, or you have the place where you can build applications. So this is where you have the GPT models. This is where you have Meta. This is where you have DeepSeek, all the models that are available for AI. Amazon is providing a platform that is called Bedrock, where you can select multiple models. Because the point here is that every model could be used for the different use cases. There are good models for English, applications, but there are other good models for, for retail, or maybe good models like Mistral, which is a French company, and it works better for French speakers, Mistral, than maybe DeepSeek, right? So there is no one model to do everything. That's the whole idea. You need different models, and they should be choices for the use cases and the customers. Okay, in LATAM, the government of Chile just announced the first Latin American GPT model. It's called LATAM GPT, and they built it because they think a lot of the culture and a lot of the regulations are better served by a Latin American model. So they build that using an open source model. And the third one is the applications. This is where you have chat GPT, I use the GPT model, but this is where you have applications like Party Rock, use the models. So this is where all the applications are going, and different vendors and different solutions will be building more and more applications. Okay, this is where the agentic approach is going. So all the interactions will be done in the future with agentic applications here. Everybody has used Alexa? Okay. So Alexa has a new version that is called Alexa Plus. Okay. I think it's actually available for everybody that has Prime. Alexa Plus uses generative AI already. It's an application, uses generative AI and runs an infrastructure, if you follow me. So what happened with Alexa Plus is that now it's an application using Anthropic and using Nova models. So these models give Alexa more intelligence. So you can have now a conversation with Alexa. So Alexa, what do you recommend me to do? And Alexa, well, yeah, based on the weather. And it makes even a fun conversation with you. Okay, it can make jokes, so it's more interactive. And it's evolving, it's learning. By the way, I didn't mention, but every day there is a new model. Every day there is a new model. So because of that, we don't need to adapt to the models. We need to think about the solutions and the business cases. Okay. So 33%, this is data from Gartner, 33% of the enterprise applications will be agentic by 2028. What is this? SAP, Salesforce, Zoom, all the applications that I use in my company, corporate applications, 33% will be agentic. So, for example, in Zoom today, if you use Zoom or Team, these applications to video conferencing, you can have the summary automatically from the call. That's an agentic, the summary function. Imagine doing more things than that, autonomous, like, hey, go to this call, I have a conflict, and attend for me. So I didn't go to the call, but it's going to attend for me, it's going to summarize the call, and it's going to send me, like an assistant. It's going to provide me the summary of the call that I didn't go, right? So imagine those type of things that are starting to happen, okay? So, but what is happening with us? Let me go to the final topics. Well, all this is technology, IQ, learning, math. There is a big trend of now in leadership, which is what is there for us, as human beings. And some CEOs like Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan is saying that this is the time to increase our human skills, communications, emotions, management of frustration, learning continuously. So there is a lot of that versus being, other robots. We don't want to be robots. We want to be the humans that are complementing what AI is doing. And this is the big change, especially for companies that are adopting more and more AI. that leaders have to be more emotional intelligent than before. Leaders have to, incentivize innovation, learning. This goes so fast that we can get frustrated, right? Because, what I know today is going to expire in a few days, right? So how do I keep the momentum? Well, increase your EQ. It is okay not to be, not to have all the details, but what is not okay is not to go to the Gen AI gym. That's what I call. Go to the Gen AI gym, go to the AI gym every day and train your AI muscle. So make sure that you are fit with AI, what is happening there. Be curious continuously. And so just going to the last, these are some recommendations to have an AI first mentality, okay? The first one is everything that you do today, think about how can be better and improve with AI. I'm gonna go with a simple, example. Today, my business is do translations of documents, right? Well, that's something that is gonna be replaced pretty easy with AI, right? So how do I challenge my business and my job of translations with AI? Okay, maybe what I do is, I add to that work personalization. I add gamification. I do multiple translations and not only one. I use the technology to be more efficient globally. Maybe I expand now my coverage and it's not only one country. I can do it globally. So think about that using an AI. The second thing is hands-on, test it, prompting, play with, the Party Rock or any other applications, but make sure that it becomes part of your skills, okay, and you use it. Rethink about your brand and your employer brand and what you do, because it has to be more AI savvy. This is not going away. This is not, 3D printing or any other technology. AI is for the long term. And finally, work on the EQ sides with you and your team to manage resistance. The more you resist this, the worse it's going to be for, your companies and your jobs. So embrace it. For example, I have this anecdote with colleges and high schools and universities that were trying to hold AI. That's not going to pay because it's how I embrace it. How do I use better curriculum using AI? How do I actually create with other tools to make sure that the innovation is there? It's like calculators, You can stop and say, I don't want you to use calculator. Well, that's going to reduce your productivity. With a calculator, you can do more, right? With a computer, you can do more. So with AI, you can do more. Same thing. Okay, so with that, my final message here is also be prepared to fail. Innovation, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, he always says that innovation and failure are twins. So one goes with the other. So it is okay to fail. It is okay to, not have all the answers, but just try and get better. So failure and innovation, they go together. That's it. That's what I have. That's my contact here, and I think it's time to go to the panel, no?
We have like 10 more minutes if you have questions.
Okay. Super. Any question?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you in Israel.
Oh, okay.
I think I want to ask about sort of like the elephant in the room as future policymakers or as people that are directly working with elected officials. How can we handle the massive displacement of jobs that AI will have? I mean, you talk about embracing it, and I understand. I think that is important, but we've had massive job loss before in the Midwest when many of our industrial companies went abroad, and I fear that this will destroy many white-collar jobs and could completely change the fabric of our society. So, do you have any more specific points on?
Yeah.
How are you guys thinking of preventing that or handling that?
Amazon, you mean as a company or myself? I can give you my opinion in certain areas. I think it's going to replace jobs and it's going to create more jobs. So, couple of analogies. When the cars were, created, a lot of horse trainers and people that were working with horses were replaced because you didn't need any more, the chauffeurs and the drivers of a car wash, right, and horse cars, because cars were replacing those jobs. So what happened is that you needed more people now repairing cars and being involved with cars, and car business became a huge business, especially in the U.S., right, with Ford. Yeah, but some jobs were lost, especially the ones related with horses. So that's an analogy there, no? So what is going to happen, same with computers, when computers and internet came and e-commerce and was, wow, this is going to replace a lot of jobs that are done manually, like, financial statements, taxes that were done manually. Part of that was replaced by, software like Intuit that do taxes for, you in a great way. But it's creating others, So what is going to happen with this is we're going to have another jobs like, for example, human in the loops that are retraining the models. Like the models, they have hallucinations. They are getting better, but the feedback from the human being is going to enrich the models. And that's something that is happening right now. I'm going to have more architects that are going to be solving the integration between the agents and the solutions that are on premises, the physical AI that is coming. And there is a new type of AI that is more physical, not only virtual. Robots with us. That's a new type of jobs. Who's going to repair the AI robots that will be with us? So more jobs will be created. That's what, and jobs that we don't even know right now. Okay, that because it's hard. The point with exponential growth is that we don't think exponentially. We think linear, and we project based on our experience. So it's hard to imagine things that are growth exponentially. But for sure, we're going to have more jobs, different jobs. So I'm super optimistic on that. What Gartner also has a phrase that the jobs that will be replaced faster are not the blue-collar jobs, are the blue-collar jobs that they don't know how to use AI.
I was talking about white-collar jobs, office jobs.
Same thing. White-collar job that they don't know how to use AI and embrace it, they will be replaced faster. So it's like, again, a translator versus a translator that knows how to use AI to do a better job in productivity. The one that doesn't know how to use AI, for sure, is going to be replaced. Make sense? I mean, too early also to say that, but there will be jobs replaced, yes, but more jobs will be created. No problem.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How do you prevent your employees from over-relying on these AI agents to the point where it might, if you take these agents away, it stops their skill?
Stop what?
Like it just stops their productivity and how good they are at the job.
So, so agents are becoming, they are not necessarily major stream right now, but companies are moving to have more agentic, to scale more, to have more productivity, etc. How you stop employers to stop that? To
just over-relying on these agents. Like basically where the agents just are doing their job for them.
Well, it's going to complement, it's going to augment. It's like how you stop an employee to use computers or use internet. I mean, you need to use it to be more productive. If you don't use a computer and you don't use the computer programs like, SAP or Salesforce to do your job, it's gonna impact your productivity, right? So how you're gonna be using more these tools with agentic, right, in AI, Salesforce again, your procurement, system, your payroll system, they will be using more AI. So for example, talking to your HR representative in the company is going to be an agent, because the answers will be probably, what is, how many vacations do I have? How do I report, this time and expense? All those questions will be easier to answer with an agent, right? So what do I do, as an HR representative, is adding more value to that, is thinking ahead, like what type of employees do I need in the future? So I become more strategic and less transactional. But it's going to be required as a productivity tool, that's for sure. Thank you for the question. One more? Two more?
One more, that'll be the last one. Go ahead.
Okay.
There's 450 million speakers of English. There's 1.8 billion bilingual speakers of English. Is Amazon doing anything in the area of bilingual education
Bilingual education? Yeah.
or education?
Yeah. Different areas. I mean, we have let's go to the AI courses. We have free courses in AI. We have a free curriculum that is available to get to have AI skills. We also help formally with certification programs, and where you can have one that I recommend is the AI practitioner. So AI practitioner is a certification level that students and everybody can do. But yeah, we have a combination of a free curriculum and also corporate curriculum depending of the corporations. But all the training is in multiple languages and globally available. All right. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan Carlos, for that presentation. As technology advances, it's extremely important that we continue to stay updated and learn how they work and how we can incorporate it into our daily lives. We'll now take a very, very short break to set up our panelists and resume with the actual program shortly. But in the meantime, please stick around. I want to share a few reminders with you all as well as we get all of our panels situated. First, we have a briefing coming up next month on April 16th. It will be on Capitol Hill in Rayburn. It will be on the topic of energy as well. So details of that are available on our social media and our website. So if you're interested on that type of policy, please feel free to join us again next month for that discussion. Another reminder is that we're also currently recruiting for 2 programs taking place this fall, one being the Global Leaders Internship Program and the Lincoln Diaz-Balart Public Service Fellowship. If you're interested, please feel free to check out our website or connect with me after the program. I'll be around in the reception, so I'm happy to take any questions. Regarding these 2 internship programs themselves, they're entirely funded and paid. Anybody who's a participant of our programs has access to a monthly living stipend, a public transportation allowance, housing, which I know is a very important component for a lot of folks who are looking to get that first experience here in DC. And we also cover your transportation to and from Washington. So it's, again, fully funded, and we are recruiting for both programs. So please look at our social media and our website for more information, or just reach out to me. Now, again, thank you so much for joining us today as we prepare to start our panel discussion. Before we start, please remember to scan the QR code on this screen here on the side of the room so that you can continue to track what you're learning at today's program with our partner, Catch Skills. Now, please join me in welcoming back our moderator, Juan Carlos Gutierrez, who will be continuing the rest of our conversation for our program today. And our panelists can also join us at the panel table here. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think.
Hey, everyone.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, going back to the intro that we did earlier. If you have more questions, please reach out after. But we're gonna shift now to the panel, and so it's great to have a set of experts and panelists that will be driving with me data in the age of AI, especially talking about privacy, security, and trust. And each one of the panelists will do their own intro, but I want to start welcoming Anisha Mangalik from Intuit, Taylor Barclay from Abundance Institute, Combis Abdullah Harimi from ServiceNow, and Anna Steers-Smith from NASA. So thank you so much and welcome, okay? Super, so excellent. So let's start having a quick intro from each one of you. So if you don't mind, Anisha, starting with you.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thanks, Juan Carlos, for the introduction. I'm Anisha Manglik. I'm Assistant General Counsel at Intuit. I lead a lot of our AI and data initiatives there. Intuit is a financial, I would say, platform, AI-driven expert platform that is powering prosperity for over 100 million customers worldwide across our products, including TurboTax, Credit Karma, MailChimp, and QuickBooks. And so we're super excited to be here today and talk about privacy and security and trust in the context of AI.
Yeah, happy to go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Combis Abdurrahimi, and I lead government affairs and public policy at ServiceNow. We are a platform company, software that does digitize workflows for corporates as well as governments, 90% of Fortune 500 companies, largest banks in the world. So really enterprise organizations, and we help them sort of get insights into sort of those workflows through AI. So we'll talk more about that. Prior to this role, I was in consulting, and then before that, I was about 15 years in the federal government. So I worked at the State Department, the White House, Treasury, Senate. So a lot of work that I've done involved a lot of policies around sort of cybersecurity, emerging technologies, AI, data, and collaboration, partnership with industry. So I look forward to the discussion.
Hey everyone, I'm Taylor. You all are a knowledgeable crowd, and you know how tech policy sometimes doesn't reflect technology or the problems they're trying to solve. Well, my job is to fix that, and the federal government is the Director of Federal Government Affairs at the Abundance Institute. And the Abundance Institute, we're a group of optimistic think tankers who believe the future can be even better than technological progress and all the benefits it's brought in the past. The gains can keep on going if we get the technology policy right, and if we get cultural discussions right. We don't react out of fear. So I'm excited to be here and talk about this topic for all those reasons.
I hate microphones. Is this thing? Okay. I'm Anna. I am the Senior Advisor to the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer at NASA. I do all the tech implementations, capabilities stuff. I whine the most about dirty data and data being not discoverable, so I'll probably do that today. I don't feel like NASA needs a big introduction. You probably all know who we are. I was talking before with Bruce, you can buy shirts for NASA at Target. You can't do that with ServiceNow, can you? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Burn your panelists, like in the first 5 seconds. So anyway, we are, just so you all know, we have Artemis 2 getting ready to launch. April 1st was the day that the universe said we would land in the right spot on the moon. So we're hoping that we're not April Fools, because we've had a few issues with Artemis 2 getting off the ground. We had a helium leak that had it returned recently. So it's been a big push on us, and a big sort of, we're all working together and working towards the same goal of getting back to the moon. So that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your intros. I bet you can buy a shirt for each one of your businesses in Amazon. So
we have stickers. I don't know.
All right. So I'm JC, just an intro again. Juan Carlos JC. I work for Amazon Web Services. I had been with Amazon for 6 years. What I do for AWS, I lead the technology and innovation teams for the Americas, for Latin America and North America. Basically, all the solution architects, customer success, all the technical roles in the technology and innovation business. Super glad to be here, just with this panel, and also talking about an amazing area, which is AI and data. So let's start with the questions. So Anisha, let me start with you. Can you walk us through how data, when applied with AI, translate into real world value for consumers and small businesses, and how do you look for prediction on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off by saying Intuit customers really trust us with their data about themselves, about their customers and their businesses. And so using AI, we can really analyze that data and provide actionable insights to them so that they can make better decisions and reduce drudgery. I'll give you some examples. So, we can analyze transaction data for small businesses. We can help process dynamically accounts payable and receivable, invoices. One of my personal favorites, we can provide like cash flow predictors so that our customers, meaning small businesses, can predict how they can actually plan, right, for upcoming 30 days, 90 days, whatever that looks like. And so this really helps them make better decisions about their businesses. And so the more that we can use that data to not only protect it, but also surface these types of insights and recommendations, the more that they can focus on really running their business and not chasing numbers.
Awesome. Yeah, and Intuit is an amazing partner of Amazon, by the way. So I'm happy to hear that the data is secure. So let me go to Combis. As governments adopt more autonomous and AI-driven workflows, how can they ensure transparency, accountability, and trust in the systems?
No, that's a great question. I did want to also say something about Intuit. So for my time, I remember when I was at Treasury and Government, I was always really impressed how companies, so they're using AI, they're using all of these technologies. We just may not necessarily know about it because ChatGPT really brought AI to the forefront. But like banks, the Intuits of the world, they've been using these technology for years and years when it's like fraud detection to better protect and safeguard, consumers' information and data. It's been around. When we're talking about trust and governance in AI, ultimately what we're looking for is kind of that, these technologies, we want to ensure that there is governance, there's trust, there's accountability, there's sets of best practices, there's the standards, so that there's transparency in how they're being used, and who has access to these data, who has access to data, to the data that's being used to inform a lot of the decisions and insights that AI is gleaning from it. Because if the data that goes in is not great data, or it's not it gives sort of not a full picture, then on the opposite end, it's going to also kind of give that sort of less accurate kind of picture. So really kind of ensuring that as this technology is moving really fast, that we have governance by design and governance at the beginning rather than at the end. So whether it's consumer protections, whether there's privacy controls in place. Privacy is a big issue. I'm sure it'll come up in this conversation, and I'm assuming we're going to have audience Q&A as well. So what we did was we put together a blueprint for what would sort of agentic governments or agentic businesses look like. So AI-powered businesses, AI-powered governments, and we're looking at sort of four factors, and the four factors through four lenses rather, and the four lenses being through data, through security, through workflows, and then through governance. Ensuring that we start with the high impact use cases, and then we ensure that there's governance frameworks at the onset, and then we invest in sort of the workflow orchestration, and then we measure outcomes, right? So this is all outcomes driven. It's not AI or technology for technology's sake, but it's like to make sure that AI is working for the people versus the opposite, that we're working for AI.
Awesome. Super. Thank you.
Would you speak?
All the way. Yep.
Thank you so much for all our panelists. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, Combis. That was great having a government blueprint. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but that was awesome. So let me shift to Taylor, and as policymakers talk about AI and data, usually there is misconception, about that. What are the many different models and data sets that you see that the Congress should know and should think about it?
Oh, yeah. So, Combis, is that your name? We just met, so good to meet you here. We were on Zoom once, but I think you kind of said what I wanted to say too. I think it's worth doubling down on a point as I try and help policymakers understand technology. AI is not a new thing. The term was actually coined in the 50s. So we're approaching 70 years of talking about artificial intelligence. And as Kambi said, we're talking about it because ChatGPT 3.5 took everyone by surprise in its natural language capabilities in November of 2022. And now here we are talking about AI. AI is it's computers, advanced computing. It's a new way of interacting with computers. And I think, in my experience, that can really cool the temperature in the room when we're talking about AI. And, to your question, JC, of the different kinds of AI and models out there, I think that's another really important component here. Not every AI model is the same. It's not used for the same purposes. Anisha, your Intuit models are probably trained on different data. They have different security, privacy practices than Gemini, Claude. There's a whole market of character chatbot AI models out there. I've done policy study on those, and those are very different. There are proprietary models, so totally internal to a company. Investment firms will use these and keep them locked down. They're not sharing them outside the firm. And there's the other component here I really stress with policymakers, and if you'll walk away with this lesson, I'll be very happy. Writing policy for all of AI won't work. There's no one-size-fits-all solution in almost every case when we're talking about AI. It's like saying we're going to regulate how everyone uses a PC for everything, and that's just the rule you would have to draft would be I think totally chill innovation. It would be incredibly costly at most, and that would lead to chill innovation. It would be it would infringe on civil liberties, civil rights. So the better approach is to focus on the concrete harms. What is the problem the policy can fix, if it can fix it at all? So I think, just to stress, with Congress, with other policymakers, the variety of kind of AI models out there is really, really key when we're thinking about policy solutions and even how data is used. The most popular models out there are, they were trained on combing the open internet, the things you and I have written and others have written. Proprietary models trained on internal documents, very, very different data sets and how they're stored and used. And I think that's a point really worth stressing.
Awesome. And I think you touched a point super key that your data not necessarily used to train public models and how you keep that. So that's exactly super important. Thank you, Taylor, for that. So going to Anna, I think she works for a company that nobody knows, no, as she said. How we can keep that, the data from NASA to be used for, train these models or, without restriction and without authorization? How NASA manage that?
There's really two parts to it. So NASA is one of the largest producers of open data, open science data, I think, in the world. So we want those models. We want that data to feed those models. We're actually working with commercial partners to build physics-based foundational models. You may have heard of Privacy if you're a heliophysicist, because that's all the rage in the heliophysics community at the moment. But we want that. So we actively work towards keeping our data open, keeping it public. That being said, we do have export control data around nuclear fusion. We have spacecraft designs. We have some data that is not public. And that public is kept very safely in there's boundaries, there's authority to operate boundaries in ATO. So we have gone through lists of like 400 controls to make sure this particular data is safe. We do allow AI to be used with that data, and large language models, as you said, AI has been used forever. So I'm not even talking machine learning. Machine learning has been probably applied to Apollo since the 60s data. LLMs, though, are allowed to be used with our export control data and our CUI data and our astronaut health data, all these things that we're very, very careful with. We just make sure that we choose models that don't have the supply chain risk that some models have. We have some Chinese models that we're a little bit cautious with. We have just very few large language models that are allowed to work with that data, and they work within those very specific security boundaries. So NASA's approach to that has been make sure everybody has the tools they need. You can use public tools like ChatGPT or Claude for public data, which is a huge amount of our data, as you know, being AWS, because we store it with you.
JC is responsible.
Yeah, you probably are. But the other data has very specialized tools. We tend to pick things that are FedRAMP High. If you've ever heard of that, we're very interested in GSA's support of that reciprocity, and that's sort of how we protect while innovating.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, so that's that was great. I mean, there is some data that we want to have, public and accessible, like, maps and temperature, pictures from, the provider from NASA. And there is data that we don't want to share, like my taxes, right? That I don't want anybody else have access to. So how Interest does protect my taxes, my payroll that is in QuickBooks? How you work with that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And as you alluded to, our customers are obviously sharing a lot of sensitive information as part of using our platform, right? We have tax return information, credit information, transaction data, you name it. And so as part of that, it's really important for Intuit to act as a steward of that data and really take a principled approach in protecting it. And so I would say that there's really three key pieces to how we handle that. And so one is looking at our technology and our practices surrounding handling that data. Two, our principles, and I'll talk about that more in a second. And then three, a transparency. So one, we want to make sure we're safeguarding that data with I would say, industry-leading technology and practices to make sure that that kind of guides how we operate from a technical perspective. We also have public-facing data stewardship principles and responsible AI principles. Those are on our website. Anyone can look at those at any time. And so those, again, operate as somewhat of a North Star for how we launch new products, how we innovate, how we use AI and data internally and externally. And so lastly, I'll say that building trust with customers is so important, right? And a big part of that is transparency. Customers need to know how their data is being used and feel comfortable with that. And so, like I said, we publish our principles online, how we operate. We also provide control on how customers' data is deleted, accessed. They can update it using our privacy center, and so that gives them a lot more comfort with what's happening with their data. And so ultimately, we are investing and are continuing to invest significantly in this space because it's such an important aspect of what we do. And yeah, I think that goes for any institution using AI these days, I think. So.
Super. Thank you, Anisha. And so let's shift to a little bit with Compass so we talk about models, data. When we talk about autonomous and agents, I think the challenges become more interesting. So on the autonomous agent, Compass, how's your point of view? How you're managing cybersecurity, and what is ServiceNow doing in that area?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, if you think about it, now we're talking about, so, it was sort of machine learning, it was AI, it was like it's going through these kind of progression. Now we're on this sort of agentic AI, and I'm sure pretty soon we'll be on something else. I was on a panel, was it, I forget, like maybe a couple of days ago, and it was like quantum AI. It's like, okay, we can get there.
Yeah, physical AI now.
Physical, exactly. So we're moving forward at record speed. But I think what you kind of hit on in terms of sort of as things are getting more connected, as things are becoming more automated, as there's more touch points, let's say, or the IoT, Internet of Things, we're going to have to talk about and really understand cybersecurity, and also to that identity, because it goes hand in hand. So we are now entering a world where you brought up agentic, agents, AI agents. We're entering a world where now machines have identities too. They always have, but now we need to make sure that they have certain privileges, that we're going to give them access to, right? What can they access? What can't they access? So it has to be back to sort of the governance, the transparency, the, control, human oversight. But again, identity, now includes not only humans, not only applications, but, both hardware, software, the apps, the devices, and the AI agents as they're moving through legacy systems that will always exist, will never all be replaced, and these modern systems. And so how are we accounting for emerging cybersecurity threats? Because a lot of this interconnectedness, it does introduce some potential vulnerabilities. AI is being used by a lot of governments, a lot of financial institutions, some of the most regulated industries, to counter and combat against cybersecurity threats, and a lot of what I learned actually was through government. I would say this: I don't know how many of you all work in government, but it was the best sort of decision I could ever have made to work in government, because you get to see so many incredible things, like data centers. I remember visiting a data center when I first started working in government, and that was almost 15, 20 years ago. And now here we are today, and it's okay, it's what people are talking about, but actually going in and seeing how they're built, and they have to be built a certain way, because if there's a let's say some sort of a blackout, let's say, there has to be kind of redundancies built in. So you have to kind of think, as the policymakers in the room and government, you have to kind of plan, you have to think ahead many, many years. And when I was in government, and I know that it's the case now, we are thinking ahead. And so cybersecurity, identity, this has to be governed in a way to ensure that, there's not rapid, large-scale, kind of whether it's attacks or breaches. So we have to be really smart about cybersecurity and identity.
Awesome. No, that's fascinating. Thank you, Combis. I was talking to some colleagues, if I may comment, a couple of weeks ago about the agents becoming part of your organization. So just like you have employees, you have to consider agents as part of the team. And that goes to the identity. So do they have a job ID? Do they have your employee ID? So you can reuse IDs for the agents that are part of the organization. So having the same privilege and the same roles. So it becomes interesting, when you see all the implications that you have to consider and being proactive. So thank you for that point of view. Amazing. Following what is next, and you were touching already a little bit on that too, the physical AI, what is next? So agents are becoming more physical and to the edge. No, it's calling to the edge. So we are going to have more wearable AI devices and devices with you. So maybe Taylor, you have some recent work on AI moving beyond the screen and going to the wearable to things like coming with you. So how that changed the conversation and the security conversation with AI with you?
Yeah, well, if I can quickly, I'm glad you camped out on the agent thing a little bit. I mean, even with the chatbot AI, and especially with agents, we're all managers now. I've had to think about the tasks, the questions, the prompts for the AI tools I use, like I would managing a research assistant in my role. That's been a helpful framing for me, and I think that'll just be more and more. The management skills will apply. And what are you wearing, JC? What is that wristband?
This is a B device. It's not on, but it could be recording all our conversation. So I actually have to ask before if you want to be recorded. But this one records a conversation, send it to the cloud, and then gives me a summary in my email with the whole conversation.
I love it. So you teed me right up because this is I co-authored 2 recent policy briefs on wearable computing, wearable AI, one for state policymakers and one for federal policymakers. We wrote this to help policymakers understand this next wave of technology. These chat interfaces have allowed computers to become less of a look at square piece of glass in my hand on a screen to computing that I can wear on my body, like JC, and that's a fantastic example because it's also allowed greater legibility. So this computer is listening; it could listen to our entire conversation. We have that capability now with our smartphones. Any one of us could be hitting record right now. AI can transcribe that, put it in text. I think the Meta Ray-Bans are a great example of integrated AI, wearable AI. The Aura Ring is another example. Apple Watch is one that's quite popular. Google and OpenAI have said they're going to be releasing. I think Google has glasses on the way. OpenAI has a whole suite of products that maybe like a pen or a pendant that we can wear. And I think this is just the new way in which we will be interacting with computers. And it brings up a whole host of privacy and data questions. Privacy policies were written for an era of social media and computers that are on desktops and go to servers. And wearable will bring about more localized computing, which is a point I really want to, I guess I'll stress it now. I think that's coming too. I had a colleague point this out to me, and it's really reframed my thinking. Most of the times I'm using a computer, I'm using someone else's computer. Mm-hmm. Apps on my phone, I'm not running on those on my phone. It's on maybe an AWS server or someone else owns the computer it's running on. But with advances in chip technology, NVIDIA released a really cool desktop supercomputer you can buy for $4,000. It has 128 gigabytes of RAM. You can run a 7 billion parameter LLM on it. Totally disconnected from the internet. Extrapolate, imagine that, repeat in 10 years from now, we could all be running complicated, complex AI models on our own private computers. Apple just released a whole new suite of MacBooks designed for this, and that's just going to continue. And that changes the privacy and data management question. Now I can fully own and contain it if I like. It changes how we should maybe write laws or consider laws. We don't want to upend that ecosystem. There are risks that come with that too. But I think it's going to be a huge boon for economic growth, creative freedom, civil liberties, civil rights, and all that. And happy to talk more. But that's why we wrote these wearable AI papers, because this is the next wave of how we interact with computers.
Amazing. And including cars, autonomous cars, having your credit card, right? And that's fascinating. Thank you, Taylor, for that. So Anna, going back to NASA, and we were talking recently about responsible AI. So what is the point of view from NASA about governance, responsible AI? How you manage that in NASA?
So these things. So NASA. I think I hit on sort of how we keep everything contained in boundaries that are very boring but very necessary, and it keeps our data very safe. The big thing is, if you give 3 rocket scientists, aerospace engineers, AI tools, and you let them go to town, you will have a spacecraft designed by AI in 2 weeks. It's insane. The things that these brilliant people do when you enable them with this technology, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and the return on investment is obvious. So our intent is to responsibly move very fast. We need to beat China to the moon. We are in a space race. We're well aware of it, and enabling our brilliant workforce with the tools is really our primary goal. So we're spending a lot of time looking into things, to be ready for. Like you have model weights that can be tampered with. You have very specific things that can happen with LLMs that are new to the AI sort of things to watch for, because they only came with LLMs. They didn't exist with machine learning before, which we had tons of experience with. I mean, even the post office has been using machine learning since the 60s for addresses. So our primary goal is to just empower our workforce. We have AI tools that are for everybody. They're low code, no code, low barrier to access, and we sponsor them at an enterprise. There's an enterprise entitlement to it. So every single person at NASA has access to AI tools they can use for moderate and including export control data. The second part is we are building the Chief Artificial Intelligence Office team to support high priority agency use cases. So we have use cases that just have huge returns on them, like being able to predict when a turbine is going to go out in some tunnel somewhere in some giant research facility, or some air conditioning is going to go out, or how you evacuate people, or all of this sort of big data, people analytics, building analytics, business use cases. So we have the second part of our mission from our office, which is to accelerate those mission use cases. So we tackle a few of those at a time. We matrix out to we grab aerospace engineers and have them working on this, and then solve those problems really, really rapidly, and then move to the next one. So that's been working really, really well so far. And in the middle of it, we're always working with cyber. We're always working with our cloud services folks. Just by using cloud, you accept a certain level of risk, right? They're not on your computer, as you said, right? You're working from somebody else's computer. So by using cloud, we're already accepting that someone somewhere has access to that computer, even though they're not us. So there are a lot of boundaries around that, and you hope that AWS and Azure and all the other cloud providers and all the other SaaS solutions have the appropriate clearances and they have the appropriate controls there. But really, it is just a partnership. You're relying on your partners to educate you and do things responsibly, and you're doing things responsibly on your end. And in the end, we just want to get to the moon, I guess.
Together.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome.
We're going to the moon.
Super. Great. So let's. That was amazing. Is everybody enjoying the conversation? Yes. I'm learning a lot, for sure. Let's talk about laws now. So, Anisha, we hear a lot about a patchwork for state laws, local laws, and federal standards. What does that mean for me as a consumer? Is a restriction? Is protecting me? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off by saying a couple things. So one, and just kind of connect this back to the conversation we just had. So AI does not work without data, right? To really make AI work the way we want it to help us get to the moon, to help us have these AI agents do all these things, like we need to have data in place to do that. And so in tandem with that, have privacy laws that work with that, right? Right now, there are more than, I would say, 20 states that have their own privacy laws with their own nuances. And so that creates a lot of confusion for consumers, and it makes compliance pretty burdensome for businesses. I think more than ever, it's important to think about how we can move toward a preemptive federal privacy law. Consumers in some states have really strong privacy rights and can act on those rights, and maybe you live 2 states over and then you don't have any of those same rights, right, with respect to your data. And so we need to make that more boundaryless and say, okay, regardless of where you live, you have rights to what happens with your data. Similar for small businesses. These patchwork of laws really drive up the time that businesses spent on complying and the resources involved. And, we all know this, but so many businesses within the first 3 years fail. I think the percentage is around 60% or so. It's a lot. And so adding this kind of burden to that is really hard. Like, you have one law that says, okay, add an opt-in for certain types of activities with data. And then for the same type of activity, a different state will say do an opt-out. And so a small business has to figure out, how do we enable this on the back end and the front end, right? Talk to a lawyer, update our data architecture, update our UX, all these things, and then implement the change management involved with that. Like, that's a lot for a small business to deal with when they're just trying to get up off the ground and figure out product market fit. And so these are really things that we need to think about. How do we enable businesses to really survive and thrive?
It's amazing, and that's where QuickBooks and solutions like that enable low compliant and low coverage, but also agility for the businesses.
Exactly. I mean, ideally, because what we're trying to do is reduce some of that friction, right? So, like we talked about, like Ken talked today, cash flow prediction. We talked about reducing friction when it comes to workflows, things like that, and so making it easier for businesses to do that type of work.
And compete globally. I use QuickBooks and I use TurboTax a lot. So, going Combis to this protection public law, framework. There is a big component of a trust, no? And Anisha was mentioning about the trust that small and medium businesses deposit in the solution to be agile and to grow. How do you see that trust, component on services that ServiceNow can provide to other customers?
No, absolutely. Again, it's all like the trust engine, right, if you will. So all of these things, it requires a level of trust between the consumers that are using these applications and these tools and those who are making these tools and providing these tools to the market. If I could speak to also like the laws as well, because I think that's a great question. And I think it's important because if we want to compete globally, let's say we were talking about China, if we want to compete globally against, China, we want to ensure that our businesses have every advantages that they can, and startups, and we want to promote, innovation. The laws and the regulations and the policies need to be agile and be flexible to allow for those changes because the technology is moving at a rapid pace, and our laws and our regulations and our policies need to evolve with it. So I think there was an example earlier somebody said, but it made me think of my time at Treasury and looking at regulations that were on the books. There were regulations back then, and this was 2013 and 2018 when I was at Treasury, that would regulate the account opening. So say like you want to open up a bank account, but the regulations that were on the books basically said you had to do it in person. But there was such a thing as internet mobile banking. So the regulations had not progressed, had not evolved. And it really, when you're talking about businesses, and now from the private sector side I see, we just want clarity. We want to know, give us the standard, give us the rule, give us the regulation, give us what we need to comply with, and we'll comply with it. Where it gets more difficult is you have patchworks of laws and regulations, some of which are completely contradictory with each other. It doesn't provide that certainty or that assurance for businesses that want to invest and grow and hire more people, etc. We need to have more clarity, more certainty, and regulations and laws that are flexible and agile to allow for innovation. I know it's easier said than done, but I've seen. I'm a lawyer. I've seen many laws that we've passed and regulations that are just completely, again, contradictory with what we're trying to achieve.
And when you have that on a global, context, is even more complicated, right?
Absolutely.
Because you have to compete now globally. Fintechs, to your point, with financial services.
Yeah. So, like, we're in Europe. I would just say this. We're everywhere. We're globally. We are in Europe, and there is this sort of patchwork of laws. Obviously, each country has its own, and we say, give us the most, give us the most onerous standard. Give us one, but give us one to work with so that we can, have that clarity and be able to build and expand and grow. When industry doesn't have that that clarity, then they look elsewhere because it's just too costly to comply with otherwise, and it just really inhibits innovation. That's why where does a lot of innovation happen? It happens in the U.S. because we have the most flexible, the most, but we could do better, is what I'm trying to say. We could do even better than what we have now.
Super. That was awesome. So going to Taylor on the role of law, Congress. What is the role that the Congress should be doing to distinguish this agility, on the government, private, government surveillance? There were some, famous situations a couple of weeks ago, right, about government data versus private. So what do you think is the role of the government there and the Congress in particular?
Yeah, I want to get to that, but I want to just emphasize how important the points Kambiz and Anisha have been making, that this 20-state burden, it's a compliance cost. If you're a small firm, you can choose to spend money on building your new product or service or hiring lawyers to comply with privacy laws so you can operate in new markets. And some of these are conflicting, and those are real choices and trade-offs people have to make. And so having some uniform consistency that is, as future-proof as possible, technology neutral, doesn't, enshrine, like, Kambiz, you mentioned this requirement to show up at a bank or in person and file something, that's why I said at the beginning, laws are best when they're targeted at the harms they're trying to prevent, instead of, prescribing or prescribing a certain behavior or way of doing the practice, the service, or the technology itself. And JC, to your question, this is the point that I like to emphasize in the privacy discussion and data management discussion, because it often gets missed. That there's a big difference between private, data and privacy regulation for private use, that includes corporations and customers, versus government data collection and citizens. And in my opinion and estimation, the regulatory calculus needs to be, it's very different on the privacy, on the private side, the private, citizen to company side. If I'm voluntarily sharing my information with, any of the companies out there, we'll show some love to the other cloud providers, Microsoft, Google, and as well as AWS, Intuit, ServiceNow. I'm entering into a deal with them, and I'm getting a service back, and they are, using my data to provide, maybe a subsidized quality of product. I talk about this frequently with, the social media platforms we use. We're paying $0 because they're using our collective data to sell advertisements. Instead, we could be paying money, but instead they're using our data to extract value. I say that in like the non-pejorative sense. Anisha, you mentioned AI models now use our data, and they're providing an amazing product because they're able to collectively, aggregate it and give us cool results that are helpful in our lives. But on the government side, we need to be really, really careful, and I think have clearer rules, even more regulation, because there, as I said before, with wearable AI, JC, your bracelet, this legibility. Imagine the government showing up at JC's house saying, give me a transcript of your event at FIU because someone there is in trouble with the law. And now all of us are, all of a sudden in the legal system, maybe our names and the things we've said, do we have protection? And these are the things that we need a lot of clarity about. We have the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution that should be providing this protection, but there are loopholes, the third-party doctrine, which, I'm not a lawyer, but, go look up that, and it's very concerning. So with, cameras on our heads and, microphones listening more, that are providing us actually helpful information, maybe recognizing faces, helping me remember names of people. Maybe I'm having early onset dementia or memory loss, and I need that help to remember the names of my loved ones or my friends. But it's also maybe recognizing people who who don't want to be recognized or included in my information, and certainly not the government's. So with kind of this increased legibility, the further collection of data, we need to be paying a special attention. I think that's Congress's first job, is to, and any state government, this is what I tell state policymakers, federal policymakers, kind of get your own house in order and data management in order and data practices. It's great to hear NASA's doing great work. You're awake. Get your own house in order, and then let's, as fast as you can, help, the entrepreneurs and the small and medium-sized businesses especially have clear rules of the road so they can give us awesome products and services.
Awesome. So going to that challenge for Anna for NASA. So yeah, it's about the data, the challenges of keeping that data secure, reliable, available. All that amount of data that NASA manages, from the space globally, all the data points. How you manage that? How is NASA capabilities to manage all that complexity?
I wanted to sigh. We're working on it. Like you gave us kudos, and I thank you for it. But believe it or not, we are hoarders. We need an intervention badly. We have petabytes of data just sitting on our drives. We're working on it, but we are working on it because we have data systems that were built in 1995. Those are not AI compatible. They are not AI ready. They're not labeled right. There's no metadata standards on that stuff. So actually right now I talked about how we divided into AI for everyone and then the sort of like mission acceleration. Part of the mission acceleration this year, and we're going to move fast because that is the tempo of the agency right now. But part of that is cleaning up our hoarding situation so neighbors can come over for lunch or whatever. We have culture change coming. We are going to have directives coming out probably that will help make sure NASA gets everything organized. We need our data properly labeled so that we can feed it into the right models because some models are okay with export controlled data and some models are not. And if your data is not labeled right, it's not going into the right boundary. We're working on an enterprise data catalog. So everyone can search for existing data. Authoritative data sources get really interesting with AI because you use machine learning to clean bad, dirty data. And now what's the authoritative data source? So now which one do you use? Which one do you refer to? What if the model actually was bad and was recalled? How do you trace that into that data set? Like there's a lot of questions that we are very intent on answering so that we continue to keep our our most sensitive assets safe, really. So I wish we could say we were in a great position, but honestly, nobody is. Nobody is in a fabulous position. AWS, you guys, 2003, 2002 had the API paper directive come out. Everybody needs to make all their data API accessible. We're going to do it, too. But you guys still have data lost, and there's just so much. There's too much data. So we're in cleanup mode, and I think we'll start to get some really, really awesome discovery once we can get all of that stuff connected better.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. There is some data points from Gartner and IDC that refers to 85% of the data is still on premises globally. So it's only 15 to 20% that is in the cloud. So this which adds capabilities to AI. There is no real AI without data in the cloud because it's not scaling. So big opportunities. And before I open it to questions, just one comment. NASA in particular has a big advantage of having the future of data, which is going to be in the space, no? So
I hope so.
Looking forward for that.
Space-based data centers?
Yeah, space data centers.
Hey, we were told it could be, we will have a moon base, and it could be a junkyard, but there will be a moon base. That's what we were told. We will have something. The data centers, I think, are floating in low Earth orbit.
Yeah, but it comes with how is the temperature going to be managed, so on. So it's a lot of
Nuclear. Have all the answers. Ready? Let's go.
So great. Let's open it for questions now, and to the audience. Yeah, please. I don't know if there is a microphone.
Just going to the point about trust. There used to be a lot of discussion about bias, whether unconscious or not, in AI. don't hear much about that today. Curious about your thoughts as to whether unconscious bias is in fact an issue, and if so, what's the best way to address it so that AI is available, accessible, trust is there for all. Thank you.
Anybody wants to answer it?
I think pay attention to it, and I'm encouraged by a couple thoughts. Pay attention to it, and I think encourage a community of researchers who stress test different models and have measurement systems. I can think of a couple recent reports. One political that looked at all the recent models and had a series of questions that they shared, and then ranked the different models on like political bias. I thought there was another interesting study. I think it was done by the Gospel Coalition on religious bias, particularly against Christianity, and they released a report. And I think this can be done over and over and over again. I think the other component to combat bias, to deal with bias, and human beings are biased, so our AI and computer models will be biased. I think the computers maybe have an edge up on us because computers are easier to change in their programming than human beings are. And it's less of a black box, even though AI is somewhat, it's difficult to decipher, but the human brain, talk about a black box. I was going to say open source is really important here, open weight models, so researchers can get insight into how are these AI systems making decisions, what is the data going into it, and some public policies proposed, like licensing requirements for models of a certain capability, could kill open source AI. And I think it's really, really important to keep open source and open weight models alive and around as an alternative. Closed source models, like those are all the ones we've talked about here, are really, really important too. But I think that's another kind of antidote to deal with bias. And I think one other thing, a helpful saying for me is, today's AI is the worst AI I'll ever use, will ever use. So models improve. I think the bias issue has improved. It will probably never fully go away. So let's remain vigilant and keep examining these things and encourage the researchers out there who are doing that work.
I can also just add to what Taylor said. I think, so we talked a lot about data today, and I think that's also a key part of this, like making sure, for example, if we're using data to train models, that data is not contributing to potential bias. I also think AI can be used to actually democratize services or knowledge or expertise that people are trying to get, especially coming from underserved communities, right? So coming from fintech, for example, like if people are trying to get access to accountants or financial planners or whatnot, those services can be quite expensive, right? And so if there are tools out there to do that in a low-cost way, then I think that's a great way to get access to that. And so, I think obviously preventing bias is super important. And so as part of that, we need to continue to explore ways to prevent and mitigate that, and also recognize how powerful of a tool AI can be in the process.
And if I may, as Anish and Taylor were mentioning, so this is evolving, this is changing. So what the solutions can do today with guardrails and protecting, increasing the trust are way better than what we have 4 or 5 years ago, and will be worse than what we're going to have 4 or 5 years from now. So this is going to be evolving continuously. An anecdote that I have from a big call center vendor is that humans hallucinate more in the call centers than AI.
Say that again?
Humans hallucinate more in call centers than AI. Because sometimes they provide answers that are inaccurate. They don't have the proc information right hand. So they hallucinate more than AI. So, any other question? Okay. So here, there.
Hi, I just think it's a shame that we didn't set up our children in the times we're in, especially after the internet came out, where reading, writing, and proficiencies and competencies would have been up here when AI started to rise. I'm just curious your thoughts about competencies. if the average is 13 years old to get the login, let's say, let's take that away, and outside of the dark things that data is being used for children, what competencies below 13, if they were to fully participate, would you want for young people, just as much as adults are participating, to help engage progress? Because they're using it. I mean, regardless if you're 13 or not, they're going to make the account.
NASA has nothing to do with this, but I'm going to answer as a mom of a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. My kids, the learning curve is insane, right? You had an 18-month-old an iPad and they've picked it up. These kids who are little are already caught up on it. We need to train our children how to distinguish, how to source check. That's what we need. So our children need to be able to determine whether or not something is real or not without AI. So some AI tools are really good and they give you great links to follow, but I think there's like a good deal of education around that. More?
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in here. I'm excited for my 3 kids being born. They're 6, 3, and 1 right now because of the possibilities and potential. It is a uncertain future. Every future is uncertain by definition. So one thing I think about, just to kind of calm my own inner voice on this, is that there have been consistent worries about new technologies throughout history. My favorite was, the novel was introduced in the late 1700s. Most people didn't read at all, but then when the novel was introduced, there was a panic that this would mean children are reading cheap stories and spending less time reading the real things, like Greek mythology or whatever. And now that seems like such a weird panic. Like, I wish my kids were reading novels. The other thing, literacy rates started to decline before the introduction of ChatGPT in 2022. I was struck recently by how few adults read for pleasure. So this is a society-wide thing. And what these AI tools, the opportunity, there's an opportunity and kind of the pain point. The opportunity is customized learning with children, with adults. Providing a tailored service. I use these chat tools with my kids. They'll find like a roly-poly in the backyard, want to keep it, and I'll say, let's open ChatGPT and ask how we can take care of it. And now they do that with all sorts of stuff. Or tell us a story about Darth Maul's childhood, and it'll do that. And I do it alongside with them, and I think that's important. And the pain point, I think, is good. It's kind of challenging all of us to think about, how do we really learn? How do we help children learn well? And I think that has kind of been missing, at least in my experience, the last 50 years or so. And it's kind of a good pain, right? To really the virtue and practice of how should I ask this chatbot to write the paper for me, or should I do it myself? I did this recently with a project I had, a new subject. I was writing about small modular reactors and data centers. I knew very little about that. OpenAI could easily write that paper, but I wanted to learn it, so I knew I had to sit down and do it myself, and it was a lot harder, but I retained that information. I think we can translate that through. So I think it's kind of waking us all up to exactly what you said, and I think it's good to be awake to it, but to realize there's a ton of opportunity here to help marginalized communities, kids who don't have maybe good teachers in their school, caring parents or even caregivers who are watching out for them. I mean, I think that's the way these tools can help kids learn and maybe fall in love with books.
Let's go over there.
Thank you all so much. And just reflecting on your question, I'm still really salty that I'm not a coder with all of the coding I did with MySpace back in the day and all the HTML. Like, I should have been,
MIDI files.
I should, right. Like, all the glitter files that I did, I should be so making sure that our kids know how to actually do that now. Thank you again. So I'm finishing up an executive MBA program at Georgetown. Sorry, y'all, I know this is FIU. And AI has been a huge part of that just over the past 2 years that I've been doing this program. And this past week, I did an intensive learning course on public-private partnerships. AI was pretty much the biggest topic that we talked about during that conversation. And so thinking of where we're headed, and especially Taylor, when you were talking about thinking like a policy leader, policy maker, and how to think ahead many years. Given the pace and the scale of AI and smart technology, where do you see government and technology actually partnering? Do you see it more as a co-equal partnership? Do you see one being a leader in that? And I think the ramifications legally, financially, accountability, just in general, is the stakes are so high with that. And while I know that a lot of critics will say it'll stifle innovation, if we add too many regulations in there, I see the beauty of it. I see how it's raised accessibility. Is when we were talking about underserved populations, having people, able to access information they wouldn't otherwise have because they can't go to a private school or a private university or even get to a library. But then I think of the harms, right? So I think of trigger warning, a kid who used AI for a suicide coach. I think of people using it for medical advice and they're getting, maybe correct information, but the wrong advice. And that was an NPR article that I just read recently. And I even think of like the remote employees in North Korea that there's a lot of articles about right now and making sure that the hiring process is as foolproof as possible. But there's so many different elements to it. So where do you kind of see the public-private partnership going for government and these infrastructures and these enterprise systems to actually make sure that we do get those clear rules of the road without stifling that innovation?
I can start maybe with training just in that area. So there is a big collaboration on enablement and educating. There is a massive need of AI knowledge and security knowledge, not only in the US, but globally. So organizations as Amazon are partnering with government and with institutions to make sure that we train more people with free curriculum, technology, so that knowledge is there. So that is an area that I think we can do more, and it's a big need in the U.S. and globally. So that's one area.
Don't want to take time from the panelists, but to maybe the government services, I think is an area that I'm excited about. For government itself to utilize AI tools to, who hasn't waited on the phone for, to talk to an employee at some state agency or federal agency? I mean, is it impossible to get someone at a federal agency? Improving that contact with citizens. Again, emphasize my last point in, to JC's question, like we need to be careful of like how the data is managed, what's collected. I think those systems need to be as transparent as possible in how they're making decisions. So I think, the provision of services, streamlining application processes, permitting. I think some state governments have already started to experiment on this. And you mentioned a lot of harms too. One thing. So all of last year, I was flying around the country talking to state legislators who were really trying to prevent discriminatory practices with AI models. And what I tried to emphasize in the conversation, and federal agencies said in 2023, there was like the CFPB, DOJ, and a couple others. We have those agencies said with current law already makes discrimination illegal. It doesn't matter if you're using AI. It's kind of like, did you use Excel to discriminate? Well, Excel isn't going to get in trouble. Like, it doesn't change the fact that you are still discriminatory against protected classes. So a lot of current law is equipped to handle these harms. Some things are working through the courts. You mentioned this suicide case, and it's extremely tragic, but they are in the courts. And, one case was settled. Google Character AI did settle a case. Maybe we'll see more information on others. These are both minors and adults. Emotional damages, there's lawsuits about that. And, we do have a system that can handle these, and it may not require legislation immediately to fix the problem. And I think over and over again, it's, because back to my early point, AI is just advanced computing. It's, it's kind of a helpful, like when I'm reading legislation or a bill or regulation that's purportedly about AI, whenever I see the word AI, I just put computers. And sometimes that really changes how it comes across, because AI isn't this like magical thing. It's just computers, people using computers to do certain things. And I think current law is really well equipped to this. And actually the Connecticut Attorney General I think last week sent a letter saying, hey, Connecticut law will cover like all the harms the legislature and governor are trying to prevent. Let's like find the narrow path, basically. Hope that helps in what you're thinking about.
And if I could add, I think it's the public-private partnership model. Technology companies, industry, we want to be seen. We bring a lot of capabilities. We invest a lot in R&D. I'm not saying that government doesn't do that, but government is very mission-driven, and we are, as corporates, we're obviously profit-driven, but we combining the two. Kind of the sky's the limit or the moon's the limit. Like we can accomplish a lot together. We're partners. We want to ensure that, government, if we're talking about citizen services, we're building apps that provide, citizens with the opportunity to, like, let's say, whether it's, renewing your passport or other things that previously you had to spend a lot of money, more time, more money, and now you can do it more, less money and be more efficient with your time and more productive. But ultimately, it requires that partnership, collaboration piece. And I would say the other thing is like education is key. So educating, both civilians, like everyone, the community, but also the government workforce. So like we are our company. We have a university. We call it ServiceNow University. There's thousands of similar programs out there. A lot of the technology companies have it, and we offer a design curriculum to improve AI literacy for government workers, and we also have the same for like everyone else. So there's an interesting. I was in a meeting. It was fairly recently with the government of Singapore, and they are all, they're all in on AI and technology innovation. And what they've done is they've realized that a lot of people learn by experimenting. And so they basically partnered with OpenAI to provide 6 months free, ChatGPT for all of their people. Now, they have 2 million. Their population is small. We have, I don't know, over 300, 400 million. So there's a bit of a cost. But through a lot of these programs that are out there, a lot of them are free. You could kind of learn and I wouldn't say become fluent in AI, whatever that means, but to be AI literate or AI proficient,
I have 2 seconds. From the government side, we have some pretty great support from OMB for ensuring our vendor contractors are transparent with us about where AI is used. At NASA, you actually have to, if you're a vendor, disclose, or a contractor or someone working with NASA data. As long as it's our data, you have to disclose any AI use. So we regularly are approving or not approving simple things. It could be we want to use a text-to-speech or a text-to-code or speech-to-text translator, like one of OpenAI's models, to translate a bunch of videos, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and we'll determine whether or not it's appropriate for that data. So there are a lot of rules that were written into some of the recent OMB memos and the last executive order around protecting the government from AI use without their knowledge.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. My question is, when it comes to thinking about the future, if you had to choose to move fast or to move safely, which one matters most today?
Both. Both. Space race.
Move fast.
Move fast, yeah.
Safe too. Both.
It's both.
Yeah, both. You need both.
Yeah.
I would venture to say
You guys are
that,
cheating. You have to pick one.
No, you don't. You don't.
I actually venture to say that if you can find a way to do both, moving safely will actually enable you to move faster. Right? It's like when you have a car, the fact that you have brakes makes you feel comfortable going 70 miles an hour on the freeway. Right? And so I think if you can...
No.
Well, maybe to defend my position a little bit, I think there's there's this notion of, I think if we don't move quickly enough, we are leaving value on the table. And sometimes it's lives, sometimes it's quality of life, health. And safety can get in the way. Too much, if we calculate to too much safety, and I don't think my colleagues here are saying that, that can be its own kind of cost and make things less safe, kind of very counterintuitively. I think kind of the FDA drug approval model is an example here. You know, I think it's the economist Alex Tabarrok who talked about the invisible graveyard of delays in experimental drug approval. You know, in the name of safety, you know, and I do not blame them at all. This is their directive. This is their job. I'm glad the FDA is approving drugs. But there is a cost in human lives when it takes multiple years for a life-saving, life-improving drug to get approved. And I think that is often missing from the question you asked. And I think I just really want to emphasize it. And that's why I say move fast, because we can learn things along the way that improve, I think, make things safer. And the only way to learn is to move.
And driving is not safe. Human bodies were not meant to go 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. So the brakes help, and we have brakes. We have guardrails, we have experimentation environments, we have sandboxes, we have data in ATO environments. We're moving within, we have boundaries. We have our brakes, we have our blinkers, we have that stuff. But we do have to move because the gains are insane. They're absolutely insane. We're doing text to spacecraft, like literally printing 3D parts for a spacecraft that we can simulate. That's the engineers say that it's like 2 months savings that they're getting each time they do it. So how can you? That's not going to hurt anything. We already have our risks. And the other thing I want to say is, I think we're going into a world now where government cyber is going to have to start giving you not just a yes or a no on things. We're going to need to understand that impact is important, understanding impact is important, and then also understanding like how likely it is to actually impact something. So in the past, it's really been like, oh, you can't do that because that model has some chance of egress, of data egress or whatever. But now, because we understand how AI can make things better, we're starting to get cyber to have discussions really around, okay, well, here's actually what could happen. And I think this gets into legal kind of works this way. And I think cyber needs to start working that way. And I think they are getting on board as they learn more about AI. That's the other thing. You don't have a lot of AI trained cyber specialists.
So maybe to complement with an Amazonian angle to that, security is the priority. No? So nothing gets out that, I will say that could impact security. However, we have this mentality that we have decisions that are based on one-way door or two-way door. So it depends. There are some things that you can move fast because there is not a big impact to go back. Right? So doing a dashboard, doing a prototype, doing something, you can go fast, and then there is not a big impact to go to in the two-way door. So one-way door is when you walk one way and you cannot come back. Two-way door is when you go and you can return. Building a new data center, opening an application that is going to have a global impact, that has to be secure for sure. Okay? So that's the analogy of the decisions, one-way door or two-way door. But that helps you to move fast. And I use always the Formula One example too. You need brakes in a Formula One car to go faster. So.
JC, let's take one more question.
One more question? Super.
I think
This has been an excellent discussion. I have a question. So back in the old days, NIST and, did oversight. And I'm thinking about the president's management agenda, all the cross collaboration with federal government, industry, academia, far-reaching impact. That broad collaboration with AI at the center. Is that central oversight currently happening on the non-national security side? And if so, who's involved? My other question is, with the national challenges we're having with wars and the power of AI, and domestically, we have not had to, as citizens and industry government, we have not had to be in a protective posture. Is someone working on leveraging AI tools to protect citizenry, the grid, et cetera, so we are prepared for what may be coming? I know that's a complex question, but thank you all. You've motivated me to ask, so thank you so much.
So I'd be happy to take the NIST component of your question. So we work very closely with NIST. A lot of industry does. They will continue to do, not only in the U.S., but globally. NIST is like the world's leader when it comes to standards. And I would, definitely encourage you to look at the Center for AI Standards and Innovation, which NIST manages. And it's exactly that. It's focusing on standards. It's working in tandem with industry and academia and civil society to come together as a group, to put together kind of what are those sort of voluntary frameworks out there. So whether it's the risk management framework or new versions of that, but how can industry align to a standard that that promulgates the sort of what we're talking about here when it comes to security, when it comes to safety, when it comes to clarity with regards to and transparency. So that I would definitely encourage you to look at NIST at they call it CASE for short, but the Center for AI Standards and Innovation.
To the other part of your question, in NASA, we're working with NIST always. I just had lunch with 2 NIST ladies last week. We are exploring how you can use AI for things like threat detection within your SOC. We met with vendors at the White House last week, and we reviewed some of the leading sort of cyber, say blue team, but AI for defense products. And I can tell you that every single CISO was there. So the federal government is actively learning about how to use AI. And I'm sure the Department of Homeland Security and folks who are much scarier and smarter than I am are very well aware of sort of how they're protecting the grid. And there's even a course at American. You're at George, never mind. But there's lots of courses around it. So there's a lot of hype in that area and how we can use AI to defend ourselves, especially since we know that people are using AI to attack, right? So that's done. I just wanted to let you know that we're definitely there. We're listening to it. There's vendors galore, and there's lots of products. But NASA is working with USDA to explore threat detection and a few other things, some patching and sort of cybersecurity uses for AI.
Well, this has been an amazing panel. Thank you so much for your time. Anisha, Combis, Taylor, Anna, thank you so much. Let's give it up a round of applause.
Okay, so thank you so much again. Another round of applause to include JC as our moderator. So as usual, these are just too tall for me. What I wanted to encourage all of you is, again, this is being recorded. So if you have an opportunity afterwards to check out the recording, share it with someone else, that would be great. A lot of different points. I think the overarching really is that there isn't like when it's coming, what do we do, blah, 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 but it's here. So you have to learn it. Just like when you say on your resume or something else and you have that little section that says additional skills, and everybody was so happy to put down, Microsoft Outlook for a while and all of those different things. We need to start really learning about this and learning it in wherever you are, right? It's not going to be a stretch, but start wherever you are. If you work with young professionals, encourage that. If you're in an office, and JC brought this up earlier before from an HR perspective, you may need different guardrails in your office or in your nonprofit, whatever that might be. And I'm still amazed at how, I don't understand how children that are 3 can figure all that out. And, you know, it takes us a programming to figure that out. But thank you again. A couple of announcements to share is we do have right now open applications for our Global Leaders Program for the fall. So if you know of somebody who's in college, a sophomore, junior, senior, or someone who just recently graduated, we have 8 slots for interns in the fall, so make sure that they complete that application and get that in. That's always the first test. Is the application complete? And after that, we can pass you on to the next level. We also have another public policy briefing coming up on April 16th on energy. So again, go back to the website. Make sure you follow us as well on social media. The team always posts everything there that's coming up. And the last is our annual awards gala is here in DC on May 13th at the Waldorf Astoria, so hopefully you can join us there. And another thank you to FIU and our panelists. We look forward to learning more from you. Last is keep in mind, we send out an email that recaps this conversation, includes the link to the recording, and also if the panelists have anything else to add, we incorporate that link to their study, their report, their website, whatever they want us to share with you. So be looking for that out as well. So thank you again, and any board members, advisory council members still in the house, come on over so we can take pictures. Thank you for everyone for participating and also online. Thank you.
Advisory council, get up there.
Oh, perfect.
Brian? Yeah, see?
Is Brian still here from Capitol?
I think he left.
He left, okay. So where come on in, Brian, Laura, where are you? I saw you somewhere. There she is.
I mean, Dave was a good next to me.
And who's here from FIU? Is that Michelle or Carlos?
Excuse me?
Who's here from FIU? Is that Michelle or Carlos?
Carlos was here? I don't know.
So everyone. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
He's kidding. You asked me some question. Conversation.
Everyone.